Have you ever felt alone in your healing journey? Well, I want you to know that you are not the only one that has felt this way, and you're actually not alone. One of the hardest parts of living with an autoimmune condition isn't always just the physical symptoms. Sometimes it's feeling like the people around you don't really understand what you're going through. And maybe you've heard things like, "You don't look sick," or "I think you're just stressed," or possibly, "Here, try this supplement. It helped my neighbor." Well, I know those comments are well-intentioned, but they can leave you feeling unseen and misunderstood. That's not those people's intention. But today I want to talk to you about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention, and that is your support system. Because the truth is that the people closest to you can greatly influence your journey. They can either support your healing, or they can unintentionally add to the stress that your body is already carrying, and you don't need that. I'm Terri. I am the founder of Inspired Wellness Holistic Health Coaching, where I help autoimmune warrior women like you and like me return to health and vitality through lifestyle medicine. Lifestyle medicine is a complement to your medical care. When most people think about improving their health, they think about improving their diet, exercising more, improving sleep, and reducing inflammation. All of those things are incredibly important, but we often overlook something that's influencing us every single day, and that is our relationships. Research consistently shows that healthy social connections improve emotional well-being and help reduce stress and encourage healthier behaviors. We become like the people we associate with. That's pretty much a fact of life. And on the flip side, chronic conflict, isolation, and emotionally drained relationships can keep our nervous system in a constant state of stress. That is not good. Now, I'm not saying that relationships cause autoimmune disease. I'm just saying that they're one piece of the puzzle, and they can influence us in a good way or a not so good way. And it's up to us to acknowledge that and to take action to increase or decrease whichever way that the relationships are going. But they absolutely influence the environment in which healing takes place. Our body needs to feel safe in order to heal. And that's why community is one of the 9 pillars of health of Inspired Wellness that I talk about. I learned this lesson in a very personal way. During my own autoimmune journey, there were seasons when life felt incredibly uncertain, especially in the beginning. There were many medical appointments, most of them without answers, especially before my diagnosis. It took me 18 months to get a diagnosis, and I know for some of you that has been the same. Financial uncertainty after needing to leave my job, that was very stressful. Days when I simply didn't know what the rest of that day or the next day would look like. And what made these seasons most bearable wasn't that someone could fix these things, but that people showed up, that people cared. My family stood beside me, friends prayed, people listened and encouraged me. They didn't have the answers, but they reminded me that I didn't have to walk this path alone. And looking back, I see that God answered my prayer through people. And sometimes healing comes wrapped up in human kindness. Kindness is always a good thing, and we always have to keep reminding ourselves to be kind, even when we're frustrated. It affects people. So what does a healthy support system actually look like? Well, there's 5 traits, and let's walk through them. The first trait is that healthy people listen before they give advice. Have you noticed how some people quickly rush to try to solve problems? I think that's a natural human instinct. We don't like to see people, especially our loved ones, suffer, and we want to solve their problem. But sometimes they do that before we're even done telling our story. Healthy supporters do something different. They listen first, and then they ask questions, and they try to understand before trying to fix. That kind of listening makes people feel safe. And emotionally safe matters more than we can often realize. And I think back to the Bible studies that I lead, and that's usually one of the rules that we lay out on the first day. And that is when someone shares, not to try to fix. Because like I said, that is a normal human reaction to try to fix, but we don't have the answers. And maybe if we think we do, we actually don't. But that person just needs to talk. And you can ask questions, but refrain from trying to fix. The second trait is respect. Every person's autoimmune journey is different. Healthy supporters don't compare your journey with their own or with someone else's. And they don't pressure you into doing what worked for them or what worked for their friend. They respect your choices. And they encourage you to work with your healthcare team, and they recognize that healing is not a one-size-fits-all. The third trait is encouragement without judgment. Healing isn't linear, and some days you'll have energy and other days you won't, with no explanation as to why. Some weeks you'll feel like you're making great progress, and then a flare may just pop up out of nowhere and you feel like you're back to square one. But it's a roller coaster of ups and downs, and healthy people in your support system don't shame you for that. It's outside of your control, but they celebrate progress and they offer grace and they remind you how far you've come. And you need to remind yourself of that as well. Number 4 is that healthy relationships bring peace rather than constant drama. Who likes drama? I sure don't. None of us have perfect relationships though, and conflict does happen. But healthy relationships aren't built on criticism or manipulation or emotional exhaustion. When you're already asking your body to heal, protecting your peace becomes incredibly important. Sometimes the healthiest thing we can do is lovingly establish boundaries. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about protecting what God has entrusted to us, and that is our own health. I like to talk a lot about boundaries because I wholeheartedly believe in them. We're responsible for ourselves, and we're responsible for what we allow into our lives, into our bodies, and choosing the right type of people to surround ourselves is important. And maybe putting some distance between us and those people that cause us stress is also important. But you can do that in a loving and compassionate way. And lastly, healthy supporters point you toward hope. Hope isn't pretending that everything is okay when it's obviously not, but hope is believing that today's struggle doesn't get the final word. The people you need in your life are the ones who remind you that your diagnosis is not your identity. It does not define you. They remind you of your strength. They remind you of God's faithfulness. And they remind you that healing happens one small step at a time. I'd like to leave you with one simple reflection today, and that is think about the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Maybe it's less than 5, or maybe it's more than 5. How do you feel after you've been with them? Do you feel encouraged, calmer, more hopeful? Or do you leave feeling anxious or discouraged, or just simply emotionally exhausted? The question is not about judging your friends, but it's becoming aware of the environment that is surrounding you. And because we become more like the environment that we live in, like I said before, we need to take control of that and put up the guardrails and the boundaries to protect ourselves so that we can heal in a proper environment full of positivity and not the negative things that drag us down and are not conducive to our healing. In Galatians 6:2, the Bible reminds us to carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. God never intended for us to carry our burdens alone. He wants us to give our burdens to Him. He also wants us to share our burdens with each other. And that isn't just you unloading your burdens onto your friends, but it's also you carrying your friends' burdens, because this sharing is really a two-way street. And that is the most fulfilling type of a friendship. So sometimes strength looks like asking for help. And sometimes healing begins when we allow other people to walk beside us and actually help us, or just be there and be our friend. As we think about the people in our circle, I want to challenge you to reach out to one person that consistently brings peace and joy into your life and tell them that. People need to be encouraged, just like we need to be encouraged. Invite them for coffee, or invite them to take a walk, or just mail them a note of appreciation. That's kind of a lost art, receiving a card, like a thank you card or some other kind of card in your mailbox. What a surprise. And you'll find that healthy relationships grow with intentional investment. It takes time and it takes intention. So if today's message encouraged you, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear in the comments about the things that have encouraged you, the people that have walked beside you, and what that has meant for you. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I encourage you to do that. That really helps this channel be seen by other people that need this type of encouragement. God bless you, and I'll see you next week.